When the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch is on fire, bullets are flying, and half the family is plotting how to kill the other half, does any piece of land really belong to anyone? Or is it all just blood, power, and the price of holding on? That's the bitter, beautiful truth behind Yellowstone, the neo-Western saga that turned a Montana cattle ranch into a modern American war zone. In this 15-minute breakdown, you'll get the entire story of Yellowstone, from the first shot fired to the final twist, that grips you like a cheap horse auction and never lets go. One ranch, one empire, one war. At the heart of Yellowstone is John Dutton, the seventh-generation owner of the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, the largest contiguous cattle ranch in the United States, stretching over more than 2,000 square miles and worth hundreds of millions of dollars. To the world, it's just a ranch. To John, it's the only thing standing between his family and history, swallowing them whole. Surrounding that empire are three deadly borders: the Broken Rock Indian Reservation, Yellowstone National Park, and a deep-pocketed land development corporation trying to build a luxury resort and a casino. Each one wants a piece of the Duttons' land, and each one is willing to pay or kill millions of dollars worth of damage to get it. From the very first episode, you feel it. This isn't just a family drama. It's an open-air siege where every handshake could be a trap and every embrace is hiding a knife. The first season, blood in the dirt. Yellowstone kicks off with a scene that tells you everything you need to know about John Dutton. He kneels next to a horse hit by a truck from a billionaire developer's crew, and instead of calling a vet, he puts the animal down himself with a pistol. That quiet brutality sets the tone. The ranch is being squeezed by a land grab rumored to be worth more than $1.5 billion, and John's answer isn't lawyers or PR. It's leverage, intimidation, and, if necessary, violence. John's youngest son, Case, lives on the Broken Rock Reservation with his wife, Monica, and their son, Tate, trying to escape the family's legacy. But when Dutton cattle wander onto native land, tempers flare, guns come out, and the ranch loses its future heir apparent. John's eldest son, Lee, dies in a confrontation that leaves the family in ruins. In one episode, the Duttons lose their golden son, their peace, and any illusion that they can stay above the law. Meanwhile, Beth returns from a failed banking career in Utah, as sharp as a barbed wire fence and twice as dangerous. She's poison and charm, wrapped in a $1,000 suit, ready to weaponize every contact, every bank, and every rumor to protect the ranch. And Rip Wheeler, the ranch's lead hand, is John's enforcer, cold, loyal, and willing to kill, bury, and even love for the Yellowstone without blinking. By the end of season 1, the Duttons are bloodied but not broken. They fire back at the developer, the reservation, and the park by turning the land itself into a weapon, flooding a dam site, turning scorched earth into a message. The first season makes it clear. This ranch doesn't run on money. It runs on fear, loyalty, and revenge. Season 2, Walls, Wounds, and War. Season 2 opens with the ranch physically wounded. Someone has dug a fence line through the Dutton property, trying to carve out a slice worth tens of millions of dollars. Beth's romantic life implodes when she's gang raped by a man she's been dating, and the trauma leaves her even more unhinged, more ruthless, and more dangerous than before. As tempers rise, John's middle son, Jamie, claws his way into Montana politics, positioning himself as the state's attorney general. He's the lawful face of the Duttons, but he's also the most desperate for approval, willing to bend rules, cut deals, and betray anyone to prove he's more than just an also-ran. His relationship with Beth is a slow-burn landmine, part sibling rivalry, part toxic codependency, and part mutual blackmail. On the Broken Rock side, Chief Thomas Rainwater, the pragmatic, ambitious leader of the reservation, begins to turn his people's land into a casino and casino-style resort, competing with the billionaire developers instead of just fighting them. He's not playing fair, he's playing smarter, using the Duttons' own tactics against them: manipulation, money, and murder. And when the Beck brothers, a pair of Texas-style corporate hitmen, threaten the Duttons outright, the ranch's response is brutal. John murders the lead developer, Malcolm Beck, as Beth watches. Case kills his partner, Teal Beck, in a barn, and Rip protects Beth from further violence, deepening their twisted magnetic bond. By the end of Season 2, the message is clear. Whoever comes for the Duttons pays for it in flesh, no matter how many zeros are on their contracts. Season 3: Secrets, Graves, and Bombs. Season 3 ratchets up the personal stakes. A biker gang, the Reapers, comes to the ranch looking for work, only to be forced to dig their own graves by Rip and the Cowboys, showcasing the dark code of the Yellowstone. Outsiders who push too far don't get second chances. Jamie's world cracks when he learns he's not John's biological son. His father is a wealthy rancher named Garrett Randall, who abandoned John's mother decades ago and left Jamie's origin as a weapon waiting to detonate. The revelation devastates Jamie's sense of identity and fuels his resentment toward Beth, who already knew and kept it secret. Beth, meanwhile, is dealing with a pregnancy from a relationship many fans already know is doomed. She has an abortion, but the emotional fallout reshapes her. Rip proposes to Beth in a dingy gas station parking lot, and for the first time, the two of them publicly commit to each other. Two broken people deciding to build a life inside a war zone. On the reservation, tension explodes when Chief Rainwater uses a tense confrontation, where a white developer is shot dead on reservation land, to turn national attention toward his fight for sovereignty. The line between protest and provocation blurs, and the feds are suddenly very interested in who owns what and who controls the narrative. The season closes in a triple shot of chaos. John is shot in his own driveway, Case is pulled into a shootout, and Beth receives a bomb disguised as a package from her ex-fiancé. The season ends on a cliffhanger, where the Duttons aren't just defending their land, they're fighting to survive the next morning. Season 4: Politics, Weddings, and Visions. Season 4 opens with the ranch reeling from the attack, but the Duttons are still playing the long game. Beth and Rip finally get married in a raw, heartfelt ceremony that feels like a truce in the middle of a battlefield. It's one of the show's most emotional moments. Two people who've done unspeakable things for the ranch finally choosing each other, even if they can't choose peace. John runs for governor of Montana, using the ranch's power, the ranch's loyalty, and the ranch's enemies to turn the election into a proxy war. He's not doing it for ideology. He's doing it to stack the deck in the Duttons' favor, whether through zoning laws, environmental regulations, or sheer political pressure. Jamie's story reaches a turning point when he tracks down Garrett Randall, the man who fathered him, and charges him with negligence. In a private, brutal scene, Jamie kills Garrett himself, wiping out the one person who could ever truly leverage his paternity against him. It's a twisted act of power and revenge. By killing his real father, he ties himself even more tightly to John, the father he spent his life trying to outlive. Meanwhile, a new threat comes in the form of the market, a group of powerful investors and corporations trying to buy up rival ranches and squeeze Yellowstone out from the outside. The battle is no longer just about guns and fences. It's about stock prices, debt, and deep-pocketed conglomerates that think a family ranch is just another line item on a spreadsheet. Beth's instincts pay off when she short sells the market's stock, forcing them to retreat. John gets elected, and the season closes with the Duttons momentarily in control. Only you can feel the pressure building beneath the surface. like a ranch that's one bad winter or one bad deal away from collapse. Season 5, Part 1. Governors, Ghosts, and Grudges. Season 5, Part 1 opens with John as Montana's governor. But the governor's mansion doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like a gilded prison. The closer he gets to DC-style politics, the more enemies he makes inside the state, inside the federal government, and even inside his own family. Rip and Beth are finally living openly as a couple, but the cost of their lives is catching up with them. Rip, who's buried countless bodies for the ranch, starts to feel the weight of every grave, especially Lee's. Beth's scheming reaches a fever pitch as she maneuvers around corporate sharks, political rivals, and her own brother Jamie, who's spiraling into self-destructive rage. Jamie's hatred for Beth and his jealousy of Case boil over. He starts plotting ways to undermine the ranch from within, using his political position, his legal credentials, and his intimate knowledge of John's weaknesses. The more he's ignored, the more he's willing to burn everything down just to prove he's not disposable. Outside forces gather like storm clouds. The reservation, the casino developers, and a new layer of corporate overlords are all circling the Yellowstone like hungry vultures, each waiting for a sign of weakness. And then, the unthinkable happens. John Dutton is murdered. The shooting shatters the family. Case assumes responsibility for the ranch, trying to hold together a dynasty that's already at war with itself. Beth's world collapses, and her grief turns into a red-hot promise. She will not die quietly, and she will not let anyone else take what's left. The final act, Jamie, Beth, and the last war. In Part 2 of Season 5, the Duttons are no longer just defending the ranch. They're trying to survive their own history. The people who've been loyal for years, Rip, Lloyd, the ranch hands, are all soldiers in a war with no clear end. And the question isn't whether they win, but who gets left standing. Jamie's vendetta against Beth becomes the final front in the Dutton Civil War. He's convinced that Beth has always been the favorite, the smart-mouthed monster John kept at his side, while he's been the one doing the clean work. In a shocking twist, Beth kills Jamie, executing him in cold blood because she finally sees him as too dangerous to ever let walk away. It's an act of love and cruelty wrapped together. By killing her brother, she protects the ranch from his chaos, but she also deepens the family's cycle of bloodshed. Along the way, the ranch's old guard pays a price. Colby, one of the younger hands who rose through the ranks, is killed in a brutal attack, a reminder that the Yellowstone isn't just run by legends. It's held together by people who rarely get to retire. Lloyd, the wise old cowboy, represents the last echo of the Old West, where loyalty meant everything and the land was sacred. By the series' final episodes, the weight of the Dutton name rests on Case and Tate. The ranch passes through fire, politics, and betrayal, but the land is still there, as stubborn as the people who fought over it. Whether the next generation can break the cycle or only repeat it is the lingering question the show leaves behind. Why Yellowstone grips American audiences? Yellowstone works because it holds up a mirror to modern America: land, power, legacy, and the cost of keeping what's yours. John Dutton isn't just a rancher, he's the last patriarch of a fading empire, fighting billionaires who want to turn wide-open spaces into luxury condos and casinos worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The show stokes the rural tension so many viewers feel between corporations that want to buy up everything, politicians who flip-flop on their promises, and communities that refuse to be erased. It's the West reimagined for the 21st century, where the bullets are real, but the real battles are over zoning laws, stock prices, and who controls the narrative. And at the center of it all is a family that's both deeply relatable and deeply toxic. Beth's brilliance and rage, Jamie's insecurity and ambition, Case's internal exile, and Rip's oath-bound loyalty all feel like recognizable human flaws stretched to their extremes. You don't just watch Yellowstone, you feel like you're knee-deep in the mud, the blood, and the weight of 1,000 acres that have soaked up generations of pain. If you haven't binged this entire saga yet, you're watching a world where a single ranch is worth more than many cities, and every decision, from a handshake to a homicide, can change who owns the West. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash like, drop a comment with your favorite Dutton, share this with a friend who's obsessed with cowboys and conspiracies, and hit subscribe so we can tear through the next chapter of the Yellowstone universe together.